Ashe greetings, grand rising, a grand day, and peace and goodwill to you all once again, my fellow natural, native, earthly humans. You, the earth's organic humans and soulful humans. Yes, you, my fellow humans with soul the world over. Yes, you don't know that this is yours truly, I, the mystic philosopher, and many thanks for stopping by and giving up your time to listen to another perspective with yours truly, I, the mystic philosopher. And welcome to part 6 and the continuation of the great big black and white lie exposed, in which my main objectives are as follows. 1 is to show and prove to you all, my fellow natural, my fellow highly melanin and highly enriched carbon skin complexion natural native earthly humans, why we should not and why we must not call ourselves black. 2, why we should not and why we must not pronounce upon ourselves black or allow others to pronounce upon us the word black. 3, why we should not and why we must not identify with the word black, answer to the word black, allow others to call, label, list, and bestow upon us black. As a black people, a black community, a black business, a black nation, a black country, a black race of people, etc., etc. And 4, and by the same token, it is to show and prove to you why we should not and why we must not call, label, list, or bestow upon Caucasian or anyone or any other race of people, any other melanin deficient race of people for that matter, the word white. Number 5 is to show and prove to you that the English word black, or more correctly, black, we'll get into that later, stay tuned, is a curse word. A word that brings bad luck, subjugation, and misfortune and more upon all those that it has been called. Number 6 is to show and prove to you that it is a game, and one in which we are being played like pawns on a chessboard. A game that is heavily stacked against us. Highly metaphysical game that is highly stacked against us. And that in order to change the game in our favor, yes, we have to change the name black and all its synonyms and euphemisms, I might add. We have to change them as well, but stay tuned, we're gonna get into it. So back to continue answering question 1. For those of you who have been following me, and I ask that if you haven't yet watched from part 1 to part 5, please do so. You'll get, I almost guarantee you'll get a better understanding, and understanding of what I'm saying. Then you can make your own judgment and come up with your own decision. So the question number 1, again, I will continue to address it and answer it. It said, please explain in more detail what exactly you mean by black is not equal to white, and why a black man or a black woman can never be equal to a white man or a white woman. And as I mentioned, there are 2 parts, at least 2 parts to this question. Part A, please explain why black is not equal to white. And part B, please explain why a black man or a black woman can never be equal to a white man or a white woman. So far I think that in the previous talk, part 5 actually, to be exact, I have answered hopefully to the edification and satisfaction of a lot of you, my listeners, part A of question 1, namely, please explain why black is not equal to white. And to summarize, my answer is simple. It is because black is the opposite of white. And for all practical reasons, and in this practical reality, I also explain why opposites are not equal and the same. However, there is still a lot more that can be said and a lot more that will be said as to why black is not equal to white as we continue to reason on this topic. Now, let me now answer part B of question 1, namely, please explain why a black man or a black woman can never be equal to a white man or a white woman. Now, at the end of part 5, I made the following statement. Those of you who are following will remember me saying this. And I quote, "From this basic fact, we can also logically conclude that a black man or a black woman is not equal to a white man or a white woman. A black man or a black woman is not the same as a white man or a white woman, and thus they are not and cannot be treated equally or the same." I continue by saying, now the question that one must ask and hopefully have answered are these. Number 1, how do we know and can identify a black man or a black woman and a white man or a white woman? 2, does either of them really exist here on this, our planet and Mother Earth? The short answer to question 1, how do we know and can identify a black man or a black woman and a white man or a white woman is this. It is by their fruits. That is how we know and can identify them. Meaning, it is by their manifestations, their character, their behavior, their action. It is by how they conduct themselves and their lives and live their lives. It is by their attitude towards their fellow natural native earthly humans. It is their attitude towards our Mother Earth and all her other natural native inhabitants, etc. This is how we know and can identify them. You may recall that I told you that according to the English dictionaries, the word black is an adjective. And the purpose of an adjective is, and again I quote, a part of speech expressing quality or condition, a word used to limit or define a noun or a pronoun. Unquote. In other words, an adjective is a word that is used to describe, limit, or define the noun or the pronoun. Therefore, the word black, an adjective, is both describing, defining, and limiting the noun man. It is defining him, the man, meaning it is describing and stating his intrinsic nature, his indispensable quality and characteristics. It is telling us what manner of a man he is. It is telling us all there is to know about him, and as such, what should, could, or can, and must be expected of him. And how are we to know the intrinsic nature of a black man? How are we to know the indispensable qualities and characteristics of a black man? And by the same token, how are we to know the intrinsic nature of a white man? How are we to know the indispensable qualities and characteristics of a white man? And the answer is by looking at the meaning and definitions of the word black. And the meaning and definitions of the word what? White. First, we will continue to look at the word black, and then we will look at the word white. Let us analyze the meaning and definition of black, which is number 2 from the Winston Canadian Dictionaries for School. 2. Black meaning almost, according to the dictionary, black meaning almost without light. Black meaning very dark, as a black cellar. That is to quote from the dictionary itself. Now, our own individual practical life experiences coupled with our activated common sense will affirm that there is no light in blackness, aka there is no light in darkness. And here the dictionary is saying black meaning almost without light. How then do we interpret that? Almost without light. For your information, the light being spoken of here is not the physical light as the light from the sun or the sun's light, but it is a metaphorical or symbolical light. And the same can be said of black meaning very dark, metaphorically, spiritually, and symbolical light. It's metaphorically, spiritually, and symbolically, light signifies or light symbolizes life, divinity. Light symbolizes purity, morality, goodness, righteousness, celebrations, as in happiness and joy. Light symbolizes guidance, intelligence, knowledge, understanding, and overstanding, and wisdom. Light symbolizes hope, truth, and more. Very dark, as a black cellar, symbolizes ignorance, immaturity, backwardness, stupidity, and more. Therefore, a black man with this understanding, a black man, by meaning and definition, is a man or woman. A black man or a black woman is a man or a woman that is almost without life. The walking dead, if you will. To use one of my own Jamaican vernacular, a half dead man. Same half dead or half dead woman. So now you may begin to understand, and understand why the racist, caucasoid ignoramuses in the United States, Canada, South Africa, and the world over, I might add, consider and treat those of us that they call, label, and list black as being less than human. They call and regard us as being a subspecies. A black man or woman, by meaning and definition, is a man or woman that is almost without divinity, almost without purity, almost without goodness, almost without righteousness, almost without celebration as in joy and happiness, almost without guidance, almost without intelligence, almost, according to the dictionary, almost without knowledge, almost without understanding, overstanding, and wisdom, almost. Yes, almost without hope, almost without truth, etc. Black meaning very dark, as a black cellar. A black man or a woman, by meaning and definition, is a man or woman that symbolizes ignorance, immaturity, backwardness, stupidity, and more. And we'll be getting into it, so please stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're going to be looking at this, and if you have any question, any comment, please feel free. Any criticism, any correction, please feel free to challenge, to say it, to bring it forward. But however, in the interest of time, and me not wanting to detain your patience much longer, my listeners, this will be the end of this part 6. So please stay tuned for part 7, when and where I will continue to address, comment, and share more of my thought-provoking perspectives and insights on each meaning and definition of the word black. and also the word white, as I continue answering all your questions and more. Thanks for listening. And in your becoming, He is willing that you be more and more and more and much, much more, and definitely not less. Let no one be less you. We'll talk about that also. I am the mystic philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say.